Yo, what's going on everybody? needforbeans over here. Really excited to bring you guys this video. A lot of people have been asking me about my new setup and what exactly I have, what kind of parts I have. So I thought I'd make this video to kind of go over my setup, explain everything, what it is and the parts and everything, and just kind of go over my newest setup, which I'm really excited about. I never had a setup this powerful, and right now it's 100% stock, but I will be overclocking this. But before I could overclock it, I just want to make sure that the build itself is perfect with like cooling and everything. So let's just go over the build. Right off the bat, we have the GeForce RTX 2070 Super. Now this is like a mid to high end card. It's not a 2080 Ti, and recently they came out with a RTX 3000. So this is definitely a great graphics card, but it's not like top of the line 2080 Ti, but it's still pretty high up there. Now for this one, you can see here the graphics card requires two 4-pin connectors on the side. It's kind of hard to see. So what I did is, my methodology that I use for this build is to make sure that every component gets enough power. So for this one, I used actually two separate cables. Usually you get one cable. Let me see if I can find it. Like a lot of times, this isn't it, but a lot of times you'll get like one cable that splits up. So technically you can use one cable for this card, but for me, I decided to use two separate cables just to make sure that this card gets as much power as possible. And cable management wise, I just routed this back here underneath, and then on the bottom it goes to the modular power supply. Now speaking of the power supply, I have the RM 1000 watt Corsair power supply, and this is kind of an old one. This is probably like 6 or 7 years old, so I don't know, but it still performs pretty well. I have another one of these that I switched out. I used to mine a lot, so these definitely have gone through quite a bit of usage, but I just swapped it out just in case, and works pretty well. So the way I mounted it is with the intake fan on the bottom like this. So it's just gonna start intake. This power supply takes fan will intake air from the bottom of the case. So it's not an important thing not to put your computer on like carpet, because then there's not enough clearance or room for this power supply to actually get air. Now, yeah, this is fully modular power supply, so nothing much to it. Now this is just a VRM for the motherboard. I'll put it in the description below. This is the ASUS Z390 Prime. So this is like a mid-range motherboard. It's not like top of the line, but it's also not like $80 motherboard. It's about like 150 bucks. So it's pretty good. Now this, we have an i9 9900K in there. Now this is the Corsair H150i. So the H150i has a radiator, right? So these two lines, they go up to this 3-fan radiator. There's 1, 2, and 3. It's the third fan is hiding behind here, so it's quite a large one. It's pretty big. It's almost the length of my case. So what I did was I actually this area is supposed to be for hard drives, but I don't really have any hard drives. I only have a SATA drive, which actually is on the other side of the case. There's a place for it. So the SATA drive is not here. So there's absolutely anything here. There's absolutely nothing here, just for the radiator to be able to pick up the air. So the radiator pulls air from inside the case, pushes it upward, right? So if you put your hand on top of the case, it's gonna be slightly warm, because the way the airflow in this case works is it goes front to back, and then bottom to top. So hot air always rises, right? Always goes to the top. So having a radiator in this position is optimal, because it takes the air from inside the case here, which is not ideal, but it's better than taking air from the top and blowing it back to the middle towards the graphics card. So this essentially takes the air from here, pushes it up, and it pushes it through this radiator, which is above the fans. So essentially it pushes air into the radiator and up the top. If this runs for a while, you put the hand on top here, you'll actually notice that it gets quite warm. So the other thing is you have the G.SKILL RAM here. We only have 2 sticks of RAM, because it took me a while to match up the RAM on the motherboard. This one is 32 megahertz RAM, but with an XMP profile, we were able to push it to 4,000 megahertz. So XMP profiles, a lot of people don't like them, but XMP profiles are essentially like predetermined like overclocks that the manufacturer not guarantees, but pretty much essentially says you should be able to overclock this RAM to using that profile. I did have to tinker a little bit with the XMP profile. When I first put it to 4,000 megahertz, it didn't work, but for some reason the DRAM speed in the BIOS, there's some setting that it wasn't set to 4,000 megahertz. So right now I'm running this at 4,000 megahertz, but really, if I look at my PC, it only goes up to 3,900. Close enough for me anyway, but this was really a pain to get to match up the RAM and the motherboard. I will definitely put you guys the exact model if you guys want to replicate this, because it actually works really well. A lot of people overlook the RAM and they get cheap RAM, but I put a lot of research into making sure I get the right RAM and making sure that it works. So this one actually works wonders. The XMP profile only works with 2 sticks, so if I were to buy 2 more of these and put 4 of them, it's actually probably wouldn't work. So that's the weird thing. The other thing is, this is, I think, 2 sticks of 16 gigs, so it's about 32 gigs of RAM, maybe 16. Let me double check here. But either way, it's more than enough RAM. Video games don't only use more than like 10 gigs of RAM at most. Yes, looks like this is 16 gigs of RAM. Let me see. Memory, yes, 16 gigs. So 2 8-gig sticks. But that's actually more than enough for me for all the games that I play. I never hit a bottleneck there. Other than that, we have just a few fans here, and the way the fans are set up is blowing. These guys are taking air from the front, so if you put your hand here, it's actually pretty cold, pushing it through the case. And this one is an exhaust. There's a fan right on the end here, which exhausts air from the end. Now I found that this setup, pretty much front to back, bottom to top, is the most optimal, and I have had absolutely no issues with like cooling or overheating or anything. So the other thing is, we do have a CD drive here, but it's not plugged in, and I'm not gonna use it. It's only for aesthetic purposes because I have like an empty slot here in the front. So yeah, that is pretty much my setup. If you guys have any questions about it, please let me know. I will be doing some overclocking in the next few days and putting out some videos about it. So yeah, if you guys want the exact part list for this, please check in the comments or in the description below. And if you have any questions or comments about this build, please let me know, and I will make sure to get back to you and answer all your questions. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. needforbeans out. Peace.